What old game should be remade with 2021 graphics? Mediocrity Alive said. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Ever-expanding mind said. Super Mario RPG. It was so awesome but came out for Super Nintendo right before the N64 was released, so everyone forgot about it too fast. A close second is Banjo-Kazooie for N64. I loved that game and all the different themed worlds it had, and I think it would be incredible with today's capabilities. Edit. Thank you for my first ever award. Elephant Kung Fu said. There is a very old NES game called Pirates. You play surprise as a pirate and you explore the world, finding treasure, capturing ships, navigating the winds, finding your lost family, marrying the governor's daughter, then taking over port after port. It had sword duels, galley versus galley segments, and galley versus port segments. It was an ambitious game for the time but suffers from a slow travel system, low graphics, and a very clunky combat system. The closest game to ever replicate it was Assassin's Creed Black Flag, but just straight up remake without the AC name attached to it, where you can be a pirate or hustle the Spanish waterways would be very fun indeed. Edit. Apparently the game has been remade. Check out the comments for more details, as well as some other really cool game recommendations. Thanks for all the new info, people. Ramses the Pigeon said. Pirates was actually a computer game before it was a Nintendo game, and it was created by Sid Meier, the guy who would go on to make the Civilization series. I think that a remake would need to add a bit of depth to everything, but intentionally avoid falling into the trap that caught Assassin's Creed. Rather than smoothing out the edges for mass market appeal, a developer could focus on making it so that every system, from combat to selecting one's crew, was controllable by the player. It would probably be a bit tough to refine the sword fighting mechanics, but if someone got it right, I'd be willing to bet that the end result would be incredible. Adam Musiafchi said. Perfect arc. Everyone always praises GoldenEye to the moon, but this game was essentially GoldenEye 2 improved in every way. Its features were way ahead of its time, with the combat simulator to this day not being surpassed in customizable options. It also featured a co-op game mode and a counter-operative game mode. Filled with secrets, a decent plot and a ton of cool guns. Such an amazing game that people never talk about. Cool Dark Place said. Yeah, in fact Oblivion was sort of a letdown in that respect. Visually, was amazing for the time, but you always kind of felt pushed by the main quest, never quite had the feeling of freedom you had in Morrowind. Also, the world leveling system was way too apparent in Oblivion. I actually like the feeling of stumbling into a place I'm not quite strong enough for, and then getting strong enough to come back and kick its ass. But yes, graphical overhaul of Morrowind, not just an expansion for Elder Scrolls Online, would be awesome. Sir Excelsior said. I came here unsure of what I would comment, but you took that problem away from me. This is hands down the best Star Wars game I've ever played and the one I have the most memories with. I fondly remember watching all of those bonus videos you unlock, hundreds of times. Especially the music video one. Visually Amazing said. Blur. For those who have never heard of this game, which I'm guessing is a lot, Blur is a racing game with an arcade-style gameplay. It features an incredible amount of cars separated into classes from Class D to Class A. It has extremely fun gameplay modes and features a ton of challenges. An incredibly fun game that I would recommend to anyone interested in having some fun. And for those that have friends. You can also play it in split-screen mode and do races, a game mode called Destruction, which is the highlight of the game in my opinion. Just you and your friends trying to blow each other up while driving your favorite cars. It's a ton of fun and I would love for there to be a 2021 remake. Ramses the Pigeon said. Back in the days of the original Nintendo console, there was a game entitled Legendary Wings. Now, I'll be the first to admit that it wasn't a particularly noteworthy title. Even at the time, it had started its life as a port from arcade machines, and it had every appearance of being a standard top-down shooter, albeit with occasional side-scrolling sections thrown in. Something about the aesthetics, which comprised a blend of fantasy and science fiction, really took hold of my imagination, though, and I invented an entire story for the game, and when I discovered the developer-defined plot as an adult, I was mildly shocked to see how close I'd actually been. In my version, alien marauders had descended on the Earth, and their bombardment had inadvertently opened some long-forgotten crypts. Within these chambers, the heroes had discovered some pieces of hyper-advanced technology that resembled angel wings. After donning their equipment and arming themselves, these volunteer warriors staged a final defense for humanity, then set out to bring the fight to the planet's aggressors. In the official version, the god Ares had gifted the wings to the aforementioned warriors, and the aliens had been robots controlled by a supercomputer gone rogue. Ramses the Pigeon said, "Anyway, I'd love to see Legendary Wings reimagined as a combination of Doom and Oblivion that was set in environments which made full use of three-dimensional space. Players would have their wings, a single gun, and a sword, each one of which could be upgraded and altered as the game progressed, ideally resulting in hundreds, or even thousands, of different builds. The story would be told through gameplay alone, and in the moment choices would have far-reaching effects on the greater world. Maybe it's just my childhood nostalgia talking, but I really think that it would be, well, legendary. TLDR, very few people will remember Legendary Wings, but it deserves a remake." The Fourth House said, "Tale of the Sunday. It's an obscure PS1 title where you play as a Neolithic tribe whose main goal is to build a tower of mammoth tusks to the Sunday. It's a pretty simplistic game, probably too much, but you need to regularly bring back food to your tribe so they can grow in numbers. The map was so cool to explore, for its time. Fairly empty, but it had quite a few biomes with some unique animals here and there. You start on a huge main continent, with no real reason to leave, but finding out you can jump across the water to other islands was mind-blowing." Six String Sickness said, "There was a NES game called Base Wars. Set in the distant future, baseball being played by robots who are upgradable, can be made faster, more power when batting, stronger arms, etc. The biggest change from regular baseball is that anytime there would be a force out or tag, the robots would battle, and were player-controlled. There were 4 types of robots, each with different abilities, and one of the upgrades in the game increases their hit point regeneration, and different weapons were also available for purchase. I would imagine the new version would have better graphics, more fighting moves, and hopefully better gameplay for the battles." DJCL said, 2021 graphics would be amazing on some of my old favorites, such as X-Wing vs TIE Fighter. Think about the updated visuals of the cockpits, Jigidity. Lorabo 2, updating from the VGA's VGA graphics would be fantastic, similar to how Gabriel Knight had a remake for the 25th anniversary. Betrayal at Krondor, great game and story, and amazing graphics for its time. Commander Keen. I remember getting my first PC. It was a 486DX/66 Packard Bell machine. My parents bought it used through the classifieds. I didn't know anything about using DOS or Windows, but read DOS for Dummies and learned how to use the command prompts. I didn't even know I had Doom installed on it. Talk about an exciting find for me when I was 14 years old. Haha. Sigh, memory lane. Edit, a bit of grammar. Genoman 2440 said, "I just saw a video recently about why there's a guy with a bunch of frogs in Zelda, Link's Awakening. The engine that ZLA is built on is the engine that was written for a game called The Frog for Whom the Bell Tolls." The video then described the story and gameplay of the latter, and it looks awesome. That should absolutely be remade for the US. It was Japanese only, but a fan did a translation of the game. I haven't played the original yet, but it looks really good for a Game Boy game, and it would be awesome to see it get at least the Zero Mission treatment, if not the 3D ZLA remix treatment. Zelda 1 and 2 would also be nice to see remakes of. Super Metroid deserves a glitch for glitch remaster. Literally keep the same programming, just change the graphics to be more rich and detailed. Play test with speedrunners so they can make sure that all the strats are preserved. MDK and MDK2. If you've never played these games, they're great and the humor is pretty funny. You get items like World's Most Interesting Bomb, World's Smallest Nuclear Explosion, World's Largest Hammer, Dummy Decoy, and Ribbon Shoot. I'm sure I could think of others, but those are what come to mind. Ozbatty said, "There was this little game called Alley Cat, https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/alley_cat_left_video_game, that I spent an ungodly amount of time on. It was one of the first games that ran at the same speed no matter what power your PC had. You can play it here. Also there was this LucasArts game Dark Forces, which was I think the first game with a full 3D engine. Play it here. Also memorable was Descent, where you flew a spaceship within mine shafts and asteroids. Play it here. A puzzle game that was very fun was The Incredible Machine. Play it here. And also, Microsoft Flight Simulator. Oh wait, they did. Beaker93 said, I would like to see Simpsons Hit and Run too, but go all out on it. With cartoon graphics, it wouldn't be hard to master the look, but I would like to see every setting ever used in The Simpsons. Springfield, Ogdenville, Shelbyville, could do the episode where they get the lemon tree back as a mission there. Maybe include the different places they went on vacation, Toronto, Australia, Italy, but that would be a lower priority to me. Just have every building ever featured, interior and exterior. Add some form of multiplayer too. I know the series will eventually have to come to an end. This would be a great project for them to end it on. DOS8S said, Star Siege Tribes would be an awesome remake. I know they remade Tribes too, but it didn't play nearly as good as the original. Also, Tribes was super far ahead of its time with games up to 256 players, vehicles, and an insane amount of mods released. My favorite, by far, was a mod where if you touched the ground you would die. For context, you played as one of 3 classes from light to heavy, with a jetpack that recharged. You could land on platforms and you'd fight for flags and objectives, and could fly in carriers tog street to locations. To kill enemies you could straight up shoot them to death with weapons like chain guns or blast them off a platform with an explosive disc launcher. There was also a huge aerial combat angle of the game where carriers would shoot down or attack other carriers. The gameplay and tactics were incredible. Responsibility Huge 46 said, the best art is selfish. Artists should focus on creating music that is the most fulfilling for them, and shouldn't cater to audiences or try to be like others, or only make music for the hopes of mainstream success. It is better to fall flat on one's face trying to do something new or different, than to succeed in mediocrity. Again, this is just an opinion, not like opinions really mean anything anyway. Force Commander YM said, I can't choose just one, so I'll list a few I would like remade updated. KOTOR III Fallout III, Bethesda gameplay mechanics, Freedom Fighters Star Wars Republic Commando Star Wars Battlefront III, with Galactic Conquest, the first Dawn of War games, Dawn of War, Winter Assault, Dark Crusade, and Soulstorm, Fusion Frenzy UGO, the Falsebound Kingdom Pokémon Colosseum and Pokémon XD, Gale of Darkness, Mirror B represent. There are so many more I can go on about, but I need to stop LOL. Lookmeat said, Sacrifice. Most games are about gameplay, and while fun the game was not the end-all be-all of RTS games. But it looked amazing for its time and I still have to feel a sense of epicness the battles would give. Not because of the size of the armies, but the raw power each side had and the beauty on that. Modern graphics and technology could make that game shine. Mathazer said, Battlecruiser 3000 AD. I know Starpoint Gemini comes close, but man, Battlecruiser 3000 had that 90s vibe of super technical, not all Barneat for kids and casuals. I felt like a real commander with real considerations and it wasn't fun a lot of the time. But that gave it a special element of responsibility and care for the shop and crew and logistics and problem-solving grand design. Sending probes to mine. I guess EVE Online can be similar, but anyway. A Play Part 5 said, Final Fantasy VIII. I think it might happen. And I believe if it was a total remake like 7, then it would have a lot of new fans. 8 had a bad translation, especially with Squall saying whatever all the time for whatever reason. The junction system wasn't the greatest. But the story and art is just beautiful. The music is probably the best in the franchise. Something like Fisherman's Horizon is just sublime to me. I think it might happen, as they have brought it up before. But it'll be a long time. Lost Ground said, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. I believe a remake remaster of this game. Keep the storyline the same, keep the score the same but record it using an orchestra, and have improved modern-day graphics. It would be perfect. Even better would be if they did the above, but also made the story more in-depth, adding more side quests, lore, and objectives while keeping the main plot and map the same. FastPixels said, "The Suffering, criminally underrated action horror game. Anyone who played it would appreciate the pun because you played a criminal. It was put out by Midway, which didn't exactly polish their graphics to a high gloss as it was. But the controls were tight, set pieces were intense, and a lot of the monsters were at least conceptually terrifying. It could have been better in its own Xbox PS2 era. Seeing it remade now would probably rob me of a few nights' sleep. Also, give me all of the Splinter Cells with ray tracing." Micro Kaiser said, "I have always wanted a Final Fantasy VIIX Remake Remaster. They are incredibly underrated. 8 had a phenomenal storyline, and 9 brought back the classic character looks from the earlier Final Fantasy games. Plus they were 2 of the first games I beat on my own, with a little bit of help from my older brother, and will always hold a special place in my heart."